Inominandum. Did you at any point consider heading your own occult group, Simon? During the late 1970s, when the OTO was undergoing a kind of rebirth in New York, there was a surreal moment when, during a meeting with Grady at the Plaza Hotel, it was brooded about that I should be the next OHO. This, even though I was not a member of the order. This was thrown out as a logical possibility, but both Grady and I received the suggestion with distaste. I, for one, found it actually humorous, but I don't think Grady was that amused. But then, it might have been the joint he was smoking at the time. For years, people have asked me why I don't start an occult group or lead an existing one. Many students have asked me to conduct initiations, etc., in spite of the fact that I have always criticized organized religious movements and spiritual movements, since they suffer from the same stupid internal politics as, say, the SDS did during the 60s, or the Catholic Church still does. The organization soon becomes more important than its members, and the leaders more important than anyone else. When I refused to lead any such groups, I was criticized for being selfish. It was all quite strange, but the essence of my classes for years was an emphasis on individual attainment. That is, after all, what ceremonial magic is all about. It frees the individual from the constraints imposed by social groups, since social groups are more concerned with the survival of the group at the expense of the individual. To me, ceremonial magic was the perfect alternative. It allows anyone to be responsible for their own spiritual growth and permits them direct access to spiritual experience. Israel Regardie published the Golden Dawn rituals, for instance, to permit individuals to work the system themselves, rather than as part of a social organization. This made excellent sense to me then, and still does. But then, the inevitable question arises, is there any value at all in gurus, the initiatory system, etc.? My answer is this: a spiritual guide should be just that, a guide. I see spiritual leaders as maps. One uses a map to go from place to place, to find out directions and optimal routes, and to plan a trip. But the map is not the leader. It is not the will of the traveler. The traveler uses the map as a tool of his or her individual will. The map has no desire to force the traveler into any one direction or a requisite number of stops along the way. The map simply is, and that, to me, is the essence of the best type of spiritual leader. Once the map starts telling the traveler where to go and how to get there and how fast to drive, then the map has lost its value and has become a backseat driver. That is the worst type of spiritual leader. In the end, we are all individually responsible for our own karma, for our own destiny. That is why, I think, the practice of ceremonial magic is an ideal method of spiritual attainment. And it is also why I have always refused to lead. Those who have attained a certain level of initiation, or who think they have anyway, should communicate, write, speak, whatever, but they should not presume to lead. They cannot take responsibility for the spiritual growth of another human being, and to suggest that they can is, to me, the worst sort of violence against the soul. It wastes everyone's time. We have seen what these self-styled gurus have done to thousands of followers over the years. Of course, ceremonial magic is not for everyone. It takes a certain amount of courage, spiritual courage, to undertake that process. For many, the organized rituals and scriptures of the church or temple are enough to ensure a certain level of growth. Indeed, once one has gone through enough personal initiation, through magic or through some other means, one can return to religion and find a valuable resource in the rituals and structure of the faith, albeit one not identical to the perceptions of his fellow worshippers. One begins to see behind the veil of the temple, to realize what is really going on, and this can be an important insight leading to greater realizations. After all, religions are the effluvia from someone else's enlightenment, and there is always value to be found in examining religion carefully and cautiously. But leadership? To paraphrase Goering, once I hear the word guru, I reach for my revolver. Inominandum. In your introduction to the Necronomicon, there is the now famous warning about banishings. This section alludes to a circle of initiates in another discipline that was experimenting with the rituals and in the book. Can you give any details about the nature of the experiments and what results you received? Simon: It is difficult to give information of this nature without a lot of context. Let us say that as the book was being translated, the rituals were attempted by people not aligned with any of the more popular occult lodges. There was a certain amount of anxiety concerning the usual grimoires, as they are normally the fruit of Judeo-Christian perspectives on spirituality. The 1970s were the heyday of the pagan revival, and pagans were naturally reluctant to get involved in ceremonial magic due to the heavy Judeo-Christian spin on the technology. The Necronomicon seemed to offer a system of magic that was outside this tradition, that was purely pagan, inside and out. It was thus embraced by many pagans as a suitable technique of ceremonial magic that would not compromise their own beliefs, and that could be used with impunity by pagans. They felt that the banishing warning was certainly important, but perhaps more so for believing Christians and Jews than for pagans who felt, rightly or wrongly, that they were more than the equal of any malevolent forces that would be raised. Horned god, mother goddess, and all that. So, we had essentially two groups practicing the rituals and recording their results. Committed pagans who saw the Necronomicon as the ultimate, or perhaps only, pagan grimoire, and the ceremonial magicians of every type, including Thelemic, who saw it as a powerful adjunct to their own practice. Both groups received startling results, paranormal phenomena that they could not explain by natural causes. This, in addition to a lot of purely subjective reactions ranging from feelings of dread to outright horror. I hasten to add that these individuals were practicing the rituals of the gates. We found later that invoking the names of Marduk, while powerful, did not seem to bring quite the same degree of paranoid infliction that the more stately rituals of the gates and the Watcher produced. While not entirely benign, invoking the names of Marduk outside of the system did not seem to be as inherently dangerous as walking the seven gates. To this day, I have not heard of any serious backlash to the Marduk workings, although I continue to receive reports on the serious spiritual ramifications of walking the gates. In Omenandum, so you are still in touch with people that are working the gates? I myself have worked the gate formulas with interesting results. What would you consider to be the ramifications of walking the gates? What have you found the benefits to be?